To understand the crossroads we're living through, you have to start with a simple truth, that every society is shaped by who controls its heights, not just the skyline of its cities, but the commanding heights of culture, law, money, learning, and the stories we tell ourselves about what's possible. For the last half century, one of the most quietly effective strategies in American history has been built around this truth. It's called the Seven Mountains Mandate, and it's one of the core operating systems of what I call the Axis of Endarkenment, a coalition where Christian Dominionists, billionaire oligarchs, and would-be autocrats work hand in glove to roll back the Enlightenment itself. The Seven Mountains Mandate wasn't written in the back rooms of Congress or announced with a rally. It began in the 1970s when a handful of evangelical strategists and preachers, Bill Bright, Lauren Cunningham, Francis Schaeffer, crafted a vision for how to re-Christianize America. They understood something most movements ignore, that true power lives in the architecture of daily life. They mapped society onto 7 mountains or domains: government, education, business, media, religion, arts, and family. The plan was brutally clear. If you want to shape the future, you don't just pass laws or win elections. You infiltrate and dominate these domains until every lever, every gate, every narrative flows through your worldview. What followed was decades of patient work. They embedded in school boards, courtrooms, TV networks, newsrooms, think tanks, boardrooms, seminaries, and local councils. The point wasn't visibility. It was saturation. They learned from the old order, kings and priests, feudal lords and merchant princes, that society could be reshaped not by brute force, but by engineering the rules, incentives, and cultural habits that decides who rises and who falls. Dominionist strategy wasn't a conspiracy. It was an ecosystem of control designed to make reaction look like destiny and obedience feel like common sense. If you want to see its results, look around. The normalization of theocratic rhetoric in politics, school curriculums rewritten by sectarian fiat, billionaire-backed churches as political machines. A culture that teaches people to accept suffering, blame outsiders, and pray for deliverance while oligarchs privatize the future. The Seven Mountains Mandate is the spine of a new feudalism, where power masquerades as tradition and freedom is redefined as obedience to authority. But here's the paradox. By naming their mountains, the Dominionists also revealed their greatest vulnerability, because every system they seek to control is, at root, a human creation, built, maintained, and altered by choices. There's nothing inevitable about which hands hold the levers and what stories those levers serve. That's where the Enlightenment Socialist Mandate begins. The task is not to build new towers of control, but to democratize every domain of life so that the old games of exclusion, obedience, and manufactured ignorance can never be played again. The very idea of mountains changes, not fortresses to be seized, but foundations to be rebuilt, made transparent, participatory, and open to perpetual challenge. The first principle is reason. Where Dominionists sanctify obedience, Enlightenment Socialism enshrines critique, inquiry, and evidence. Education is not a pipeline for ideological reproduction. It is the work of cultivating thinkers who can question everything, including the very ground they stand on. This is the Enlightenment's radical promise. Truth is not handed down. It is discovered, tested, and revised by the many, not the few. The second principle is universal dignity. Where Dominionism dreams of hierarchy, Enlightenment Socialism roots itself in equality. Government is not the domain of insiders or the chosen, but the ever-renewed forum for protecting rights, rectifying wrongs, and making collective decisions visible, accountable, and reversible. Bureaucracy is made legible. Secrecy is an exception, not the rule. Every law, every policy is open to scrutiny and must justify itself in sunlight. Work and wealth are reimagined, where the old mountains turned labor into punishment and ownership into a birthright. Enlightenment socialism designs for abundance and sufficiency. Technology, planning, and cooperation converge to reduce the need for forced labor, free people's time, and guarantee that no one is left behind. Economic security is not a privilege. It is the floor for all other freedoms. The fruits of production are shared as a birthright, not auctioned to the highest bidder. Culture and story become sites of liberation, not indoctrination. The media and the arts are shielded from capture by money, by party, by sect. They become laboratories for empathy, memory, and dissent. History is not erased or rebranded. It is confronted, debated, and learned from. Every citizen becomes a maker and a critic, not just a consumer. Belonging is universalized. Family is no longer a fortress of control or a template for conformity. It becomes a space where difference is respected, where love is not policed, and where care extends beyond bloodlines. Faith, whether expressed in religion or philosophy, is private, free, and never weaponized to coerce the conscience or constrain the life of others. And finally, the ground beneath our feet, the living earth, is reclaimed as the common inheritance of all. No more treating nature as a vault for the rich or a dumping ground for the powerful. Stewardship becomes the measure of civilization. Restoration and regeneration are the only legitimate sources of pride. The Enlightenment Socialist Seven Mountains Mandate is not a call for conquest. It is a plan for deconcentration, for the hard, collective labor of making sure no mountain becomes so high that it casts a shadow the rest cannot escape. It means relentless transparency, distributed agency, and the engineering of systems that bend, break, and correct themselves before any click or cast can claim them for good. It means power is always on loan, never permanent, always answerable to those it affects. This is how you break the spell of the Axis of Endarkenment, not by mimicking its methods, but by universalizing its logic, taking the levers they would privatize and turning them outward, upward, and for everyone. The future isn't about new masters, but about a world where mastery itself is abolished, where freedom is the ground, not the peak, and every person can stand tall, unshadowed in the clear light of reason and solidarity. That's the mandate. That's the blueprint. And that's how the next world begins.